The South Carolina primary today, another bitter battle for the Republican presidential candidates. Cuban exiles defy bad weather before cutting short a memorial at sea for comrades killed by Cuban jet fighters. And the story of a man with Olympic-sized dreams and the dogged determination to win again.
From ABC, this is World News Saturday. Here's Morton Dean.
Good evening. The Republican Roadshow played South Carolina today. The door prize, 37 delegates to the presidential nominating convention. The voting places will close at 7 Eastern Time. The pre-primary polls had cast Bob Dole in the lead, a big lead, always a precarious position. ABC's Aaron Brown joins us now live from South Carolina. Aaron, what issues seem to have emerged based on some of the exit polling today?
Well, our early look at the exit polling, Mort, says the basic economic issues are the issues of this election. When we asked people what their most important issues were, they said jobs, they said taxes, they said the deficit, they said them all in equal numbers. So 2/3 of the people cited basic economic issues. In a state where foreign trade is a fascinating issue because many people, 40,000, have lost jobs in the textile business, and about half of those to foreign imports. On the other hand, half the state's employed by foreign-owned companies. People, by and large, thought trade was good for the state. About 59% said they did not think that trade cost jobs here. That was a huge Pat Buchanan issue, and it doesn't seem to be playing out in his favor.
Aaron, Lamar Alexander's a Southerner. South Carolina is a Southern state. Did that seem to help at all?
Well, we'll see when the vote comes in, Mort. I can tell you that in a week in the state, talking to perhaps 300 people, we did not find a whole lot of enthusiasm for Governor Alexander. People were still ready to believe that Bob Dole can beat Bill Clinton, and in fact, in our exit polling today, 60% of those people we polled thought Dole could beat President Clinton come November.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Aaron Brown in South Carolina today. And South Carolina is important for another reason. It's the final stop before a dizzying week of primaries and caucuses, 11 altogether. Whoever wins today's primary goes into the week ahead with a big advantage. And Bob Dole is so confident he's already scheduled a victory party in South Carolina. Our coverage begins with ABC's Mike Von Fremd.
Dole's advisors have told him he is going to win, and maybe win big in South Carolina today, but the candidate was leaving himself some political cover.
We've got two choices. If I'm winning, we go back to South Carolina. If I'm losing, we go to Canada. So,
Before heading back to South Carolina, Dole spent the day scurrying across 3 of the 5 New England states that hold primaries next Tuesday. The selection process is moving into a frantic phase. In little more than 2 weeks, 2/3 of the entire delegates will have been selected. The candidate with momentum from South Carolina may be unstoppable. But Dole's campaign themes seem to have failed so far to inspire passion. So he has decided to take his advisor's suggestion and talk more candidly about his military service and his personal struggle to overcome his war injury.
I got shot, and I spent the next 3.5 years in a hospital. And I couldn't feed myself or dress myself or even go to the bathroom by myself. And so I've learned a lot about people.
He says he is still uncomfortable bringing it up.
I think it's a very fine line. I mean, I'm not looking for pity. I mean, I've overcome all that, but I want people to know that, like in their families, that it wasn't always a bed of roses.
It is also a subject that distinguishes Dole from his opponents, and one he hopes will resonate with the voters in this crucial stretch. Mike Von Fremd, ABC News, Islip, New York.
This is Michelle Norris with the Buchanan campaign in Lexington, Massachusetts, the birthplace of the American Revolution and a place where the revolutionary spirit was still very much alive today.
We have here the revolt of the overprivileged.
With an eye toward the Massachusetts primary on Tuesday, Buchanan's conservative brigade moved through hostile territory in Boston's wealthy and traditionally liberal suburbs. But this event was all about symbolism for a self-styled conservative rebel taking on the establishment.
That's what this campaign is about. Restoring the America the Founding Fathers dream.
At the spot where the Minutemen fired the shots heard round the world, Buchanan took aim at President Bill Clinton. the man he hopes will be his ultimate opponent.
I'll tell you, you know how he does look in the crowd and say, I feel your pain? You give me that Republican nomination, I will put him in the crossfire. He will feel the pain.
Buchanan is downplaying expectations for South Carolina, the primary considered the gateway to the South. He needs at least a strong second-place showing because with money in short supply, momentum is key as the primaries start coming on at a dizzying pace. Michelle Norris, ABC News, Lexington, Massachusetts.
Steve Forbes did not expect to do well in South Carolina today. He spent the day campaigning in Connecticut, where he told reporters the nomination probably won't be decided in the early primaries. In fact, he said he's not ruling out the possibility of a deadlock convention. This entire campaign season, we've been hearing a lot about the power and political intentions of America's Christian conservatives. The Republican candidates courted them, needed them, and as ABC's Jerry King reports, it was especially true in today's South Carolina primary.
Some 40% of South Carolina's Republican voters call themselves religious conservatives. For them, this 1996 election campaign is a test of the impact of prayer on party politics.
I do know that it's a good thing when Christians are willing to take a stand and to vote their conscience.
That, to the Christian Coalition, means voting Republican.
We are a mainstream movement with a winning message that will give this party a victory if they will just have the courage to stick with it.
That message, anti-abortion, pro-school prayer, and its crusade for family values have made the Christian Coalition the state's largest, best organized group on the religious right. Powerful politicians often vote the way the coalition wants.
And I'm going to hold up here 1993, the Christian Coalition, 1994, 1995. Bob Dole, 100, 100, 100. You can't do any better than that.
Dole is supported by the coalition's leaders, who believe he's the best hope to further their agenda. But the hearts of the less pragmatic members are with Pat Buchanan.
My friends, I believe we've won the battle. The right to life plank stays in the Republican platform.
The aim of the Christian Coalition is to motivate religious fundamentalists, people who traditionally view politics as dirty, not God's work, and therefore beneath them.
Everyone in this room can make a difference.
They begin at the grassroots, at interminable meetings, getting their people elected to the Republican county and state committees.
What's the difference between the Republican and the Christian Coalitionist?
I don't see any difference.
Which upsets so-called traditional Republicans, many of whom complain their party has been hijacked.
It's gotten so bad that we don't really know who the Republicans are anymore. That's what's really scary.
In South Carolina, no Republican candidate could emerge victorious without support from the religious right. According to one Christian conservative, they've changed their image from extreme to mainstream. Jerry King, ABC News, Columbia, South Carolina.
There are also less publicized contests today. The county caucuses in Wyoming. 12 delegates were to have been selected, but one county was forced to cancel its caucus. Of the 11 delegates being selected today in Wyoming, ABC estimates that Dole has 3, 5 are uncommitted, and 3 caucuses are still being held. 8 more delegates will be selected at a state convention in May. Senator Dole, by the way, will be a guest tomorrow morning on This Week with David Brinkley. And when we come back, a memorial on the seas near Cuba for the downed pilots. In Bosnia, U.S. troops check for war criminals, and why some efforts to safeguard the environment are now on hold.
This is World News Saturday, brought to you by Merck.